Bleeding yet silent, the SEAL commander froze the moment he recognized the emblem on her uniform. The storm over Coronado was heavier than usual that night. The Pacific winds lashed against the barracks, and the floodlights from the SEAL compound threw long streaks of silver over the rain-slick asphalt. It was the kind of night when no one wanted to be on duty. Yet at the gate, a lone figure stood, drenched but unmoving, her posture straight, her expression blank, her right sleeve darkened with blood. Petty Officer First Class Maya Torres didn't flinch as thunder rolled over the base. The cut on her arm had long stopped bleeding, but the warmth of it still clung beneath her soaked uniform. She stood silent beside the checkpoint booth, refusing to take the offered towel from the duty guard. Her gaze was fixed on the dark convoy pulling in from the storm. 3 black SUVs, no insignia, no plates. She knew who they were before the first one even stopped. From the lead vehicle stepped Commander Ethan Ward, a man whose name was whispered with reverence and fear across the teams. He was the kind of officer who carried the weight of command like armor, rigid, sharp, impenetrable. His jaw tightened the moment his boots hit the wet pavement. He wasn't supposed to be here, not for something like this. He walked toward her with the slow authority of a man who had seen too much war to be impressed by pain. But when his eyes found hers, for the first time that night, something faltered behind his hardened expression. She was standing in the uniform of a unit that didn't exist anymore, a covert unit dissolved after an operation gone wrong 2 years earlier. On her shoulder, faint but visible under the rain, was the faded emblem of Task Force Midas. Ward stopped dead in his tracks. For a moment, no one spoke. The other officers exchanged uncertain looks, their breath visible in the cold. The silence felt heavier than the storm. Then Ward's voice cut through it, low, steady, but edged with disbelief. "Who authorized you to wear that patch?" Maya didn't answer. She just stood there, eyes unwavering, lips pale from the cold. Ward took a step closer. "Petty Officer, I asked you a question." She finally spoke, her voice hoarse but calm. The people who bled for it did. Her words hit harder than the thunder. A young lieutenant beside Ward shifted uncomfortably. "Commander, she was found outside Hangar 12. Security reports said she tried to access the archive wing, restricted area." Ward glanced at her bleeding arm, then at the access card still clutched in her hand. "You break into my base, you wear a ghost unit's insignia, and you bleed on my asphalt. You'd better have one hell of an explanation." She took a breath, steadying herself. "I do, but you won't like it." Ward's expression darkened. "Take her inside." They led her into the operations building, past the flickering lights, the scent of oil and disinfectant thick in the air. She didn't resist, didn't even look at the guards holding her by the arms. Her eyes kept drifting to the old plaques on the wall, names carved in brass. One name in particular, Lieutenant Commander Daniel Rains, made her pause. She swallowed hard. They sat her in the debriefing room. The hum of the fluorescent light overhead felt almost intrusive. Commander Ward entered last, removing his wet jacket, his uniform immaculate beneath. He dismissed the others with a nod. When the door shut, it was just the two of them. Ward crossed his arms. "You have 60 seconds before I call NCIS. Start talking." Maya looked at the recorder on the table. "You'll want to turn that off, sir." Ward's jaw tightened. Not a chance. She leaned forward slightly. "You were there, on the Midas operation, weren't you?" That caught him off guard. His eyes narrowed. "You don't get to ask questions." "I was there too," she said quietly, "but you never saw me." Froze. The Midas operation wasn't supposed to exist. Not officially, not even in the classified archives. It was a deep cover mission in the Strait of Hormuz, an extraction that went wrong. Bad intel, bad command calls, and 5 good men dead. The incident had been buried so deep that even the surviving operators were reassigned, silenced under NDAs and threat of court-martial. Ward had commanded that mission. He had lived with its ghosts ever since. "I was communications tech," she continued, tasked under Lieutenant Commander Rains. Ward's gaze hardened at the name. "Rains died on that op." Her voice wavered just slightly. "He died because someone called an early strike, a strike that shouldn't have been cleared." Ward's pulse began to pound in his ears. What are you implying? That someone inside the command structure issued the order to erase the evidence, to erase the team. You were meant to die too, but you didn't. He stepped forward, slamming his hand on the table. Careful, sailor. I'm not accusing you, sir, she said softly. I'm telling you why I'm here. She reached into her soaked uniform pocket and placed a small metallic drive on the table. This was recovered from the wreckage site 3 weeks ago. Rains had it hidden in his field radio. It has the comm logs, the original orders. Ward stared at the drive, his breath shallow. You expect me to believe that? You don't have to, she replied. Just read it. He didn't move. The sound of the rain outside filled the silence. For the first time in years, Ward's composure cracked. The Midas ghosts had never left him. They haunted every quiet hour, every empty corridor. And now, this woman had walked into his command, bleeding, wearing that forbidden emblem, dragging those ghosts back into the light. Why now? He asked quietly. Because someone is killing off the old team one by one, she said. Chief Donnelly, dead in a car crash last month. Ensign Harlow, suicide, they said. But I saw the file. The angles don't fit. There's a pattern. Ward's eyes darkened. You think this base is compromised? I know it is. He sat down slowly, his mind racing. If what you're saying is true, that drive is evidence of a war crime. You understand what that means? I do, she said, meeting his gaze. That's why I couldn't go through channels. Someone high up is scrubbing the records. Ward looked at the emblem on her shoulder again. You kept the patch. She nodded faintly. It reminds me who I still owe the truth to. He exhaled slowly. You're either the bravest damn sailor I've met or the most reckless. Maybe both, sir. He stared at the drive, then stood. Stay here. When he left the room, his reflection in the window looked older than his years. He walked down the corridor toward the comms lab, where only a skeleton crew remained on the night shift. He locked himself in, inserted the drive, and watched as the encrypted files opened. Timestamps, coordinates, and a comm signature he hadn't seen in years. His heart sank when he recognized it. It wasn't just a bad call, it was deliberate. The strike had been ordered by a then-Captain Wallace Monroe, the man now sitting on the Joint Chiefs. Ward's mouth went dry. He leaned on the desk, every breath heavy. He'd served under Monroe, he'd trusted him, and now the truth burned through him like acid. Behind him, a soft sound, a footstep. He turned. Maya was standing in the doorway, her bandaged arm trembling slightly. You saw it, she said. He nodded, eyes distant. Yeah, I saw it. What do we do now? Ward looked past her, through the rain-streaked glass toward the American flag whipping in the storm outside. We do what we were trained to do, he said quietly. Finish the mission. By morning, the storm had cleared. The base looked almost peaceful again, but the tension beneath it hadn't moved an inch. Ward had called for a closed meeting under the pretense of an intel review. Only 4 people knew the real purpose. When the meeting began, he entered last, Maya beside him, uniform cleaned, arms still wrapped, face pale but steady. The officers around the table stiffened. Commander Ward's tone was calm, deliberate, like a man about to step into crossfire. Before we start, he said, there's something you all need to see. He played the recovered audio. The room went dead silent as Monroe's voice echoed through the speakers, issuing the unauthorized strike order, dismissing the risk to Allied lives, and confirming the cover-up afterward. The timestamp sealed it. There was no mistaking it. When the playback ended, Ward looked at each man in turn. You've all sworn an oath. What you heard is treason wrapped in protocol. If any of you walks out that door, this dies here tonight. No one moved. Finally, one of the senior officers spoke, voice low. What's your plan, Commander? Chain of custody, Ward said. We send this straight to JAG and the Inspector General simultaneously. No filters, no internal relays. I'll take the fallout. Maya looked at him sharply. Sir, if you put your name on that submission... It's the only way it sticks, he interrupted. I was there. I signed off on those mission reports. If I stay silent, I'm complicit. She shook her head. They'll destroy you. He gave a faint smile. Maybe, but they won't destroy the truth. Within 24 hours, the sealed transmission reached Washington. What followed was chaos behind closed doors, redacted memos, emergency briefings, sudden retirements. Commander Ward was placed under administrative reassignment, pending investigation. Maya was transferred out quietly, no commendation, no reprimand, just a silent exit through the same gate she had once guarded. Weeks passed. Then one morning, a small brown envelope arrived at a naval post office in Virginia. No sender. Inside, a single piece of paper. It was an official commendation, unsigned, unfiled, but it bore the emblem of Task Force Midas. Under it, a handwritten note. "You were right to bleed." Maya read it once, folded it carefully, and placed it in her locker beside the faded patch. The pain hadn't gone, but something else had replaced it. Peace, or something close enough to it. Months later, the headlines broke. Admiral Wallace Munro resigns amid internal inquiry into classified strike orders. No details were released, but the veterans of the Midas team knew. Quietly, the truth had surfaced. Justice, in its own quiet way, had won. And somewhere on a remote training range, Commander Ethan Ward stood before a new class of SEAL recruits. He didn't talk about Midas, he didn't talk about the politics, but he did tell them one thing, something that stayed with them long after they left his command. He said, "Out there, medals mean less than silence, and sometimes the bravest thing you'll ever do is tell the truth, even if it costs you everything." The recruits didn't fully understand it then, but years later, many would. Because courage wasn't about who could pull a trigger faster, it was about who could stand, bleeding yet silent, when the world told them to kneel. And on that rain-soaked night at Coronado, one wounded sailor had reminded them all what that looked like. True courage isn't in battle, but in standing for what's right, even when you stand alone.